Hey everybody, just wanted to welcome you to RMI 670 and kind of give you an outline of what to expect from the course, and then in more detail go over the expectations for the first week, and just kind of introduce myself to you and go from there. So if you're on Canvas, and I assume you are, that's how you got here, this is what your page is going to look like for 670. You're in the welcome video. That's on the view reader these first. Let's go ahead and go over the syllabus. So I'm going to go ahead and pull that up. And just kind of talk about some of these things real briefly. So pretty straightforward, RMI 670. As we go through the course, you might hear references to RMI 570. They just changed the numbering. The content is the same. So don't let that throw you if that happens. I don't know that there will be a time when I'm in my office, but if you wanted to know physically where I am, that's where it is, WB357. If you want to talk to me, we can set up something over email. That's not a problem. But rather than keeping office hours, it's just easier to say by appointment. I'm pretty darn available. We'll find a time that works. My phone here, that's my campus phone. If you leave a message, I get a notification and we'll figure it out. But the best way to get a hold of me by far is email. I check that pretty regularly. And if you've gone 24 hours without a response, that means I missed it. Just like you guys, I get literally hundreds of emails a day. It's unfortunately too easy to miss important ones because 95% of what I get is not important at all. So if you've gone 24 hours, you haven't heard back, email again, and don't feel bad about it. It means I missed it. And that's okay. Textbook is required. If you want to share one with somebody, I don't have a problem with that. The online edition of the textbook, I think, is $80 to rent. And I thought that was pretty reasonable because this physical textbook is like $250. I would not recommend that. When we get to the healthcare chapter, we need up-to-date information, so I would not recommend using old editions in this course. Ironically, even the most up-to-date edition is still not completely up-to-date when it comes to healthcare, but it just gets worse the further back you go in editions. So I would ask you to make sure you get the required textbook. My advice is to rent through the bookstore. Like I said, I thought that was about $80. If you find a way to do it cheaper, I've got no problem with that. And if somehow you can, maybe somebody has access to the physical book somehow that they got for cheap and they want to share it with you, that's fine. But to really understand what we're doing, you're going to need to be able to have the book because that's part of the expectations that you're reading the book as we go. I really didn't want to load you up with 6 hours of lecture per week. So that was the trade-off I had to make there. Course objectives you can read. I have to have an attendance policy. In an online course, it means you have a little bit more flexibility. I expect you to watch all the lectures. Unfortunately, you can do that whenever you want. There will never be a time when I say you must be available at this particular time. And those are online course rules. Those are not my rules. And in fact, they're kind of strict about it. You can't require anything at a specific time because then it disadvantages some students. And all students have to be treated fairly, which means, you can't have live study groups. That's not fair. You could have a taped session. But that's there will never be a time that I expect you to be watching at a particular time. So that should give you some flexibility, should be a little helpful. We'll have 4 exams. The 4th exam is just our 4th exam. The final exam is not comprehensive. If there's extra credit, everybody has to have a shot at it. That's just fair. Okay, so we've got half of the grade is coming from exams, half of the grade is coming from assignments. And the way I do this in the master's course, the assignments, if you complete the expectations, you should be able to get 100% or pretty close to it. The rigor comes in on the exams. And there has to be a certain amount of rigor that happens in a graduate level course. And rather than make you work and work and work on assignments, I thought the easier way to do that the more time efficient way to do it was to have higher expectations for the exams. You'll see what I'm talking about when we get there. It's not something you should stress out about, but the time limit on the exam is 2.5 hours. That's not because I expect you to use 2.5 hours. I don't think it'll take that long if you're prepared. That's really the reason I put the time limit in there is I don't want anybody thinking that they should be spending 8 hours on doing this or 10 hours on doing this or 12 hours. That's too much. And if you left it completely open-ended, some people might do that. And then again, that's not fair to everybody. We've got to contain this to a reasonable amount of time. Everybody's busy. Everybody's got stuff going on. I try to be respectful of your time, and I hope that comes across. So I will ask you to do things. The challenge with time in this course is it's compressed. This is a summer course. We only have 10 weeks, where in a regular semester, we have 16. So yeah, in these first couple weeks, it's doubled up. The expectations are doubled up, and that's a lot. That can be overwhelming. I will tell you this, if you can get through the first 2 weeks, it's not going to be worse than that. Those first 2 weeks in my mind are by far the hardest. So if you get through those, then we'll be all right. So 800 total points, half from assignments and half from exams. I've got the scale posted for grades if you want to know how that's going to shake out. We'll find out through the way that I grade the exams. I'll have more to say about this when we actually get to an exam. They require adjusting. And you'll see why that's a choice that I've made by using short answer exams and how I grade them. I won't go into it now. If you've got special needs, please let me know, and so I can accommodate them. I need to know. And then, you can read the diversity statement that's required to be on every syllabus. Then we get to a schedule. So this is kind of how I'm going to do it. Normally, I'm going to make next week's material available on the preceding Saturday. So normally I would make everything available Saturday, even though the week doesn't start till Monday. And then I'm going to make due dates happen on the Sunday. So you've got a little bit of flexibility in there. So the week technically starts Monday, ends Friday. I've extended the due date for that week to Sunday, and I will post it earlier the preceding Saturday. See, I got a weekend on either side, because I know sometimes things happen. You have a vacation, you got something going on. I'm trying to give you as much flexibility as I can. I am not allowed to do more than that. In other words, I can't open up the entire course and just tell you finish it on your own pace. That's something that the university does not allow me to do. So that's not something that I have control over. So if you were wondering why I don't just do that, that's why. Not allowed. Looking at the schedule, you'll see it happens pretty quick. We got an exam in week 2. So yeah, how did I say I was going to do that? Open it the preceding Saturday. So yeah, really the week doesn't start till May 24th. That would be week 2, and that's when the exam's going to be due. It'll be due on the 30th. That's the Sunday following the second week. I'm going to open it a little early to try to give you some flexibility. So you got a pretty big window to be able to take that exam. The challenge is that in week 1 and week 2, we have an awful lot of other work that has to be done. That's not the only thing that you have to do. And you can't see from this schedule what's due. You have to actually look on Canvas in the week to see what it is. But this is our timetable for the entire course. I may have to adjust topics, and that's okay if I do that. If I do, then I'll adjust what's covered on the exam. That's easy enough to do. I am going to stick to those exam dates. That's when they'll be open. That's when they're due. And so if something happens with material and I didn't get as far as I wanted to, then we'll just compensate by adjusting the exam. But these dates you can count on. So I think really for the syllabus, that's a pretty good overview of what we're expecting. If you have questions, like always, email me. And if I don't get you within 24 hours, email me again. So that's the syllabus. I wanted to actually look at the course itself and show you week 1 expectations. What does that look like? So, okay. Here's week 1, a bunch of stuff to do. 2 video lectures. The very first thing I need you to do, watch video lecture 1. Just verify that you can see it. Because what you're watching now is on YouTube. What you're going to be watching here is on a university system. They're not the same. Just because you're watching this successfully now doesn't mean you're going to be able to access the lectures. Verify you can access the lectures. Most important thing, do that first. Even if you can't watch the whole thing right now, go ahead and click on it and verify that it works. So that's really the most important thing we have to do. I've posted the slides. I think that'll assist you in taking notes. I just think it's a waste of time for you to be writing down what's on the screen. I might as well just provide you that file and you have access to it, and then you can take notes from there. To do well on the exams, you got to watch the lectures, you got to read the text. The exams are weighted more towards what we discuss in lecture. And I give more credit to answers that are showing that they are addressing the things that we talked about in lecture. In other words, if all of your answers are coming from the text, you're probably missing important things that we talked about. So just so you know. What else is going on for week 1? So we got 2 video lectures to watch, and that's a lot. Again, this is doubled up, and that's the nature of a compressed course in the summer. So each lecture is, well, when we started, they were an hour and 50 minutes each, so they're 2 hours each. The first one is a lot of this kind of stuff that you're watching right now, so you can cut out like the first 20 minutes of that. I made a note. But the second one is going to take time to watch. There's just no way around this. You've got to do that. This is the order I'd like you to complete things in. I put the discussion up right away because that's not going to take you very long. This is a 5-minute thing. I'm just asking you to tell about yourself a little bit and a time when you encountered a risk, and what you did about it. And then learning from each other, that's really something that with the class members that we've got, I think is kind of interesting. So I want to take advantage of that. Then we have a case assignment. This will take you some time. You have to read a case, and then you have to look at all the things that are going wrong and suggest some risk management places where we might want to apply some techniques. That'll be the topic of the case assignment number 2. And that will make sense after you've watched the second lecture. But for now, we got to do that first case assignment, which is about identifying risks. One other word I'll say about the case assignment, I wrote this for undergrads. So when you read it and you say, oh my goodness, these are some things that I cannot believe people are actually doing. One, I wanted to make it obvious that this is risky to be performing in this manner. And sometimes with undergrads, you got to beat them over the head with this is a really bad idea for them to immediately pick up on it. So I apologize for that. If you think it's below your level, it probably is. But that doesn't mean it's not useful. So go ahead and read over that. I will tell you this, that I drew on personal experience when I wrote up this case assignment. So some of these risks that you're going to identify, some of them are exaggerated, but I swear to you, some of them are 100% true. And I'll get a chance to talk about that a little bit as we move on. You'll hear me talk about that in some of the video lectures, and then some of these kinds of lectures that I'll post interspersed throughout the course as we go. All right, so week 1, there's a discussion, 2 lectures, a case assignment to complete, and then an article read and a quiz to take. The article is a very famous one. It won a Nobel Prize, so that's why I think it's important. Some of the people who award Nobel Prizes thought it was important. So, I understand if other people would say, well, I don't know, I don't see the relevance. I think it's pretty clear, but go ahead. Here's what I'm expecting you to do with the article. These are academic articles. You could spend hours on them. And if you're in a PhD program, you will spend hours on them. I don't expect that here. I put it up there because I thought it was interesting. It relates to risk. It won a Nobel Prize. Half hour is good enough to get the sense of what's going on. You don't need to read every word in detail. You don't need to memorize the 25 different equations he's using that they've used there. But it's super interesting what they've done in terms of what it teaches us about people's attitudes towards risk, because they're not consistent. And this is, I'm tromping on my lecture 1 a little bit here. But prior to the idea of prospect theory, people thought expected utility theory mostly explained how people behave. Prospect theory applications make it clear that that's not how they behave. They're not consistent in their attitudes towards risk, which is why it matters to us. There's a 10-point quiz, 5 questions. It's pretty specific. You're going to need the article to answer the quiz. And you're probably not going to be able to say, oh, I remember reading about that, because some of the quiz questions are like, in equation 14, what does this mean? Well, you probably didn't memorize that on your reading through because there's 25 of those equations. It's hard to separate them out. So have the article in front of you when you take that quiz. And again, the whole process of the quiz, don't spend more than a half hour on the article. That would be my advice. Okay, so 2 lectures, serious time commitment. That's going to take, 3.5 hours probably. Then we've got this discussion. That's a 5-minute thing. You can get that done. Do it right now. Why not? Verify that you can watch the lectures. That's the very first thing you should do. So I got ahead of myself there. Then a case assignment and an article and a quiz. It's a lot, I know. That's why I'm making it available now, and that's why it's not due until the 30th. I'm trying to give you as much time as you can, as much flexibility in there to get that all done. All right, that's enough for this video. Any questions, reach out over email, and I'll get back to you and we'll figure it out. Thanks a lot, you guys. I'm excited to have you in class, and I'm excited to start reading discussions and see who all we've got and the expertise and experiences you guys have had. See you next time.